Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here. I'd like to call the City of Homestead City Council Workshop to order. Today is July 6, 2023, and it is now 6 p.m. For the record, also present are Councilman Fletcher and Councilwoman Bailey. This is a workshop to discuss the recent electrical outages and the related customer service issues. Mr. Manager, I want to thank you for being here tonight and getting your staff together. I know this is a busy week, a weird week with the holiday almost in the middle, and a lot of people like to be gone, and I appreciate everyone who was here and putting this together, in the aftermath of the event, getting this together, and everyone coordinated between Monday and now. So this is termed as a workshop since we don't have a quorum to have a special call. This is just for, I guess, informational purposes and just general discussion purposes at this point. So let me kind of set the stage. My impetus for calling this meeting was the 17-hour power outage in the Sky Vista area Saturday night and Sunday morning, and my concerns about what took us so long, and also some of the direct and indirect concerns, complaints I've gotten about the responsive customer service when folks called in. That's very concerning. So, in the aftermath of hearing from Mr. Estrada and our utilities director, I even had, some additional concerns in learning some of the facts of the situation that we have. But for me, this was, Saturday night was kind of a high point because, back in the fall, we had the outage in the Southwest neighborhood that was a comparable length of time where we couldn't get people to show up. And then recently, we've been advised that we weren't charging enough money for new hookups, and that cost recovery, if you will, has not been sufficient. So I wanted to delve into directly, what happened, why we couldn't get folks out there, what we're doing to remedy that, and talk a little bit about some of our concerns about the customer service angle of it. Now, the purpose of this meeting, let me be really upfront, is not to demonize any city employee, not to find any scapegoats, not to find fault, not to make accusations, not to talk about our rates and our service compared to Florida Power and Light. This is to, stick to these issues that have been brought to the forefront from the recent outage that went for 17 or 18 hours on a hot July night. So, Mr. Manager, it's my understanding that in general, we're short-staffed on the line crews. Is that an accurate depiction?
Well, Mayor, I'll answer. Is that me? Okay. Mayor, yes, but I've put together a small presentation which I think will help set the stage for the rest of this meeting. So if I can, Yaniel?
Thank you.
Okay. Electric utility line crew staffing discussion. So I wanted to go over some important facts pertaining to the department and what they're responsible for. So we have 16 line crew positions, employees. They're responsible for 181 miles of high voltage underground power lines, as well as 133 miles of high voltage overhead power lines. In addition to that, they're responsible for 272 miles of low voltage underground power lines and 151 miles of overhead power lines. So they're responsible for a total of 737 miles or linear miles of power lines. In addition to that, they're responsible for 4,350 transformers and counting, approximately 8,000 distribution poles and light poles, as well as 5,950 lights. Now, the current staffing. We have 2 troubleman positions, 1 which is vacant. We have 4 line foremen. We have 6 journeyman linemen, 2 that are on light duty, and 1 is on medical leave. And we have 5 apprentices. They're all in their first year of a 4.5-year program to get certified so they can work alone. Now, as they go through this process and they get more experience, they're working with the crew and are more responsible for different issues and repairs, but they cannot work alone until they finish these 4.5 years. Now, here's some line crew statistics, which I think are very important. This is the last 5 years. So total number of outages for this year, last 6 months, it's a calendar year, is 209 compared to last year, which we had 800. So we're approximately 200 outages less than the previous year over the same time period. Outages greater than 4 hours are less than 5%. And if you look at the previous 3 years, they're all less than 5%. Okay, so we're good there. Total number of customers, 26,515, a little bit more than the previous year. And so going to the next one, average frequency of interruptions of average customers is less than 0.1%. And the average length of a single outage is 120 minutes, 2 hours, okay? Compared to last year, which was 1 hour and 20 minutes. Now, the city has an average response time of 55% compared to FP&L, which is 50%. Now, what do I mean by that? The line crews for FP&L under contract are required to respond 55% of the time when you get called out at night. Oh, 50, my apologies, 50%. The city's response time for our crews is 55%. And talking about FP&L, I think Barbara has a couple of more important stats that we can kind of go over.
Thank you, Jerry. Just to put it in perspective, because these numbers, if you're not in the industry, they don't really mean much to you. So if you look at the average frequency, what that means is that for 2022, 56% of our customers experience 1 outage. And it might have been, some people experience more than 1 outage. But if you break down the number of outages and the number of customers, it comes out to 56% experience 1 outage. FPL's number for that same year was 0.74. So that means 74% of their customers experience 1 outage. Then the other number down there for the average length of a single outage in 2022, which is the last published information for FPL, their number was 181 for that particular indice. Our number was 81.9 minutes. So this is just to put it in context that while we are always wanting to do better, have fewer outages, and have shorter periods of time that people are out of power, our numbers are not abnormal in the electric utility range. So it's just for some context.
Thank you, Barbara. And I think it's important. FPNL is our neighbor, and that's what we get compared to. And I think we're definitely doing markedly better than they are. Sorry, Councilman. With that being said, this is not a Homestead problem. This is a nationwide problem. This is from the Lineman Central website. 2023, lineman jobs are in high demand. Epic Times, power line workers in high demand, fueled by wave of retirements and industry growth. Core Electric Cooperative, utilities deal with line worker shortage. And with that, I want to show you all a short video here.
News at 10.
Thanks for joining us. There is a shortage of electrical linemen. It's a national crisis that impacts all of us who use electricity to power our homes, schools, and businesses. And it's the focus of tonight's Critical Careers. Tom Overley's at the other side of the studio. Tom.
Right, Caitlin, that shortage of linemen is due to a couple of factors like baby boomers retiring and hiring slowdowns during the recession. I caught up with a few who work for People's Co-op to get a closer look at their jobs and get the pros and the cons of the profession.
It just covered everything.
The Halloween blizzard and ice storm of 1991.
Literally the thousands of people who were affected and all of the phone calls.
The enormity of it.
Utility lines and poles snapped under the weight of ice, cutting power to more than 20,000 in southeast Minnesota. Without power, thousands were left literally out in the cold. Many found shelter at the Red Cross and the mall. More recently, in Florida, Hurricane Ian. That storm also damaged the power grid, leaving millions without electricity. These are the men and women who sweep in to fix things. Qualified electrical linemen. They're the ones who maintain our power lines that keep electricity flowing to our homes, our schools, our hospitals, and businesses. These are new lines going into this development.
Yep.
But there is a crisis, a shortage of linemen across the U.S. The industry says demand for experienced linemen, called journeymen, is expected to climb now 8.5% in the next 4 years. This year alone, more than 21,000 job openings remain.
Slow and steady.
Without linemen to build and maintain the lines, our nation's power grid is threatened.
These guys are working 10-hour days.
So what does it take to fill these important roles? The journey as a lineman begins with extensive training.
A lot of community colleges, technical colleges within the state of Minnesota here offer power line programs.
And depending on the program, if you get accepted into an apprenticeship program, you can work as a paid apprentice. You learn the knowledge and skills to pass that apprenticeship, which takes about 7,500 hours. And then there's the nice paycheck.
Can be anywhere from 25, as just starting out, up to 50, 55 an hour.
Tyler Steinbrink is a crew leader with People's Co-op.
I graduated line school in 2012.
He likes the variety that comes with the job.
And it's ever changing. No 2 days are the same, no outage is the same, no job's the same.
Right.
It's always something different.
Being a lineman has its ups and downs. It's a job with some dangers. Live power, working in adverse weather, and those high elevations.
If you get up in one of these buckets when it's windy, the wires are moving, the bucket's moving, everything's changing. It definitely makes things a little more challenging.
But it's a challenge well worth it.
Part of the reason I got into this was a sense of pride, to provide that power and be part of that process.
Jason Campbell was just a kid in Austin during that Halloween storm of 1991.
It was a long couple days, yeah.
He remembers the cold and the dark, not understanding the work it took for the more than 200 linemen, the heroes of that storm, to restore power. Never imagining one day he'd be one of those heroes.
Makes me feel proud. Being part of this team, now kind of managing these guys.
They are the men and women, the linemen, who connect us as a nation. They're the electrical power grid, in good times and in bad.
It's an essential job that most people don't really think about until their power goes out.
It is an essential job, and
With that, I want to talk about what current actions the electric utility has been taking. This is not as of this weekend. This has been going on for months. So we're working with Irby Construction Company to have them available 24/7 as a backup response team. They're going to have a team locally down here in Miami-Dade County. 2, we're bringing back on a part-time basis a retired troubleman to help cover after hours and weekends. We're doing cross-training with substations engineering techs as well as electricians so they can handle small outages. We're working with Miami-Dade College in order to create an additional apprentice program. Remember, we have our apprentice program right now. This will be an additional one to attract new candidates. We're currently training 5 apprentices. Once again, I mentioned earlier, it's a 4.5-year program. And like it was mentioned in the previous news cut, we actually pay our apprentices during this process, right? As an incentive to be here. And we're currently interviewing new journeymen and linemen all the time. Just want to remind everybody, it's not as easy as flipping a switch. Here's an incident where a pole was taken out by this large truck, which happened to be FPNL, taking out our lines. The next one is another case here. So depending on the issue, how severe it is, what the problem is, and once again, Mayor, you touched on it, staffing, that determines how long it takes to repair an issue. And with that, I'm open to questions.
I appreciate that. That's kind of enlightening. Help me understand because I note that we're down troublemen by 50%. We have one of 2. What's their role?
Certainly, Mayor. The troublemen are the first investigators, and they work our after hours and weekends. And they go out on a trouble call and investigate what needs to be done. Probably 50% of the time, what needs to be done can be completed by one person, by one journeyman, and they are journeymen. And so they will take the actions necessary to restore the power. So again, roughly 50% of the time on their own, they're able to resolve an issue. If it's going to require additional personnel, they contact our 24/7 dispatch, advise them, I'm going to need extra folks out here to assist. And by us being down 1, and that gentleman left in January of this year, we posted the position immediately. We posted actually before he left. And unfortunately, we have not yet been able to fill it. So it leaves us with a gap in the after hours and the weekend coverage. Again, we have a retired troubleman now coming back to help us fill that gap while we continue interviewing and looking for a replacement person in that journeyman position.
And an important point, Mayor, as well, is people are not technically on call. Like if we were to tell somebody, Mayor, you have to be on call this weekend, we have to be compensating you. You can't go out, can't go out to dinner, you can't have a drink or 2, or whatever. What we have is the overtime list, if I'm not mistaken. And so what happens is the next person with the lowest amount of overtime gets called. And so they start going down that list as part of the IBEW agreement in order to give opportunities for those who haven't gotten sufficient overtime to get more overtime. And so they go through the list and they start going round and round and round until the person responds, and then they can go ahead and assign them to the task at hand.
And I notice we're down 3 of our 6 journeyman linemen, which creates a real problem, I guess. And I guess what I was taken aback by more than anything is this pretty significant staffing issue. And we only hear about it, and we only hear about these steps to be taken when a crisis hits. That I'm not aware that we've ever been made aware that these are issues. You know, I was surprised by.
My apologies, Mayor. I know when you first brought the issue up, I did send you an email of
You did.
a lot of
Yeah.
these items that we were doing already. This is automatic for us, right? So, hey, we have an issue, let's address it. We're immediately taking action. I can notify you guys every day of every action I take if you're looking for that, but I'm sure after about a week, you're gonna ask me to stop sending me this stuff.
Well, not necessarily, but this is big picture significant
Right.
items. And I think it would be a good idea if we can educate the public on, you know, in light of what has transpired the last couple of days, if we can let the public know. One question I wanted to ask, well, there's 2, are part of our outage issues, you know, general small outages. I know we can't control when people run into our power poles. Do we have an issue, though, with aging infrastructure? Are we kind of like chasing roof leaks from one end of the house to the other? Do we have an equipment problem, or is this a normal obsolescence?
I'll go ahead and let Barbara answer that question, but absolutely nationwide, the country's electrical infrastructure is older and needs to be upgraded, which we're constantly upgraded. But as to the condition of our electrical infrastructure, Barbara, please, if you can.
Thank you,
And
Jerry.
and the second question is, and it's been raised all over the place, are any of our problems attributable to the growth in that the demand on our system is overwhelming the system and causing the breakers to pop like they did the other night? So we need to put that to bed.
So I'll respond to your first question and your second question. Our infrastructure is in good shape. I wouldn't say it's excellent and sparkly, but it's in good shape, it's solid. Fortunately or unfortunately, we had a number of hurricanes where everything that went back in was new. So we had Irma, we had Wilma, of course we had Andrew many, many years ago. And so our infrastructure is, in the industry, relatively new.
Let me
And-
jump in. And in addition to the hardening that we've
Correct.
done throughout the city, since
Correct.
Irma is probably the last benchmark.
Correct. We are in the process of putting several extra miles of underground facilities, replacing our overhead with underground. We've got some grants to do that, which is phenomenal work by the folks in our staff here, city manager's office, helping us to get that grant money. And we also have the FEMA project, the FEMA grant, where we're replacing 1,500 wooden poles with concrete poles. So yes, we're doing storm hardening. We spend an average of $3 to $5 million a year on capital improvements. So we are spending money on improving our infrastructure. So our system is solid. And then in terms of load, we don't have overloaded situations. We have done a good job of planning for the future. We installed additional infrastructure in our Renaissance substation. We're building a new substation up in the north end, and also in our capital improvement plan is adding additional infrastructure at our Redland substation. So those are all things that are currently in progress. They're expensive, the capital improvements, but we have to do that to be able to sustain the load growth that the city's seeing, the electrical load growth. And so no, it's not, once in a while we'll have a transformer that needs to be replaced because the people have added to their home and we weren't aware of it, and the load has increased, but that's not frequent. So I would say no, the problems that we're seeing are not due to us not being able to handle the load growth. It's just equipment over time fails, and when it fails, the transformers usually last 30 years, and when they go, we have to go out there, we have to replace them. Our poles get hit, our switch cabinets get hit, and components fail, connections fail over time. So.
Okay.
Sometimes all it takes is an iguana. So, like last night, I said, sometimes all it takes is an iguana. So last night, we had an outage. 6,000 residents went dark. They were up in 52 minutes, right? They went out, they inspected the lines, nothing apparent what caused the issue. So it could have been a pond from that got fried or an iguana or something of that nature. But I think your question also, Mayor, is the capacity of the city for development, right? And one thing that council's aware, but maybe the public's not aware, we have the DRC review. So a new development comes into town, 100 houses. That review process includes almost every single department in this city. The water department, the electric utility, the police department, parks, and they analyze, and solid waste, they analyze the application being submitted, and it's made sure that the capacity is there to handle that additional development, if that's the case. If not, then the developer would have to do the additional improvements needed to handle that additional capacity. So I think that was part of your question as well.
Well, it was, because I've received public and private inquiry accusations that, but for all of this new building, we wouldn't have those problems. And I wanted to put that to bed. I was fairly confident, based upon what I know comes in the agenda packages, that is all reviewed. My biggest concern is are we behind the 8 ball on some aging infrastructure? I had hoped that we weren't, because, a lot of it was replaced after Irma, and that's basically brand new. 6 years is.
Exactly. And
basically-
like Barbara already mentioned, we're proactive. We're spending over $3 million a year in improvements. We're undergrounding, I don't know how many miles of infrastructure in preparation for the next storm. Hardening as well, the grants, changing wooden poles for concrete poles. So it's not like we're sitting down and waiting for something to happen. We're being as proactive as we can to address the issues. And I know we've gotten a lot of the self-righting automatic switches that they actually, if there's an outage, the switch itself will reset. So that's part of the plan as well, that Barbara and the electric utility is doing to ensure that we have a firm and strong electrical system here in the city.
Okay, appreciate that. And if you could distribute the presentation without the video attached to it to us, so we've got those numbers, and if also you could add those FP&L statistics, I think those are very
Yep.
important.
We'll be more than happy to do that, Mayor.
Comparisons.
Yes.
To show that while we do have our outages, certainly if you were an FPL customer, statistically, you're going to have more. You've
It's
had
funny
more.
because, when I got the call last night that, oh, you have an outage, I'm like, kill me now, right? So, I talked to Barbara and she goes, don't worry, the team's on it. We're on it right now. We'll hopefully have it fixed shortly. I went on to the FP&L outage map, and FP&L had 4 outages last night. So it's a common occurrence. It's not unique to the city of Homestead. And I think that we just need to be better at educating our residents that this is not an anomaly. It happens all the time, but, we're on it, and we're definitely strengthening our infrastructure to minimize these impacts as much as possible.
And seemingly maybe having some better means of interaction between our customers and our customer service when outages happen. And we'll get to that. I wanted to ask Councilman Fletcher, before we jump over to customer service, any more questions on the electric utility side of the house?
A couple of questions and a couple of comments. Appreciate the information you did provide us. That does open my eyes a little bit, but at the same time, it wasn't readily available for me to help answer some of the questions we were getting over the weekend. A couple of quick things that I did want to talk about were, is $3 to $5 million enough? Are we doing enough can we do more, or we don't have the capacity to do more?
Well, Councilman, that's an excellent question. Of course, we could do more, right? We can always be better. We can do more, but then there's a cost-benefit analysis. Also, the impact to our residents, right? If we want to do more, do we want to increase our rates? Right now, if I'm not mistaken, Barbara, we're the second lowest rate in the state of Florida for,
No, that was a few months ago.
oh, so where are we now?
We're still in the lower end of the scale.
Okay.
And we are lower than FPL.
Okay.
At the
Okay,
the
so
last
a
published
few
rating,
months
so-
ago, we were number 2. But once again, in
We're
that,
not number
I think part of our challenge right now, and so the residents that are online listening, your rates have gone up. There's 2 reasons here. One is the power cost adjustment. As the cost of fuel has increased, that's a direct pass-through from the city to the customer. It's not like the customer do a 10% markup on the fuel, and so, you know, we're making some it's a straight pass-through. The second thing, it's summer, and I'm sure all of you are very well aware, I mean, the last 4 weeks have been with the heat index of 108, I've seen as high as 112. People are really straining, you know, or using a lot of electricity, you know, to cool their houses. And so I think I saw an email today, somebody was complaining that their electric bill had gone up a couple of $100s from November till now. And I'm like, I don't have to be Albert Einstein, I know what's going on. The heat is causing the higher bill. But with that being said, you know, we reached out to the customer and we let them know about our energy analysis service here at the city. So they actually made an appointment to go out to tell them how they could save electricity so they can lower their electric bill. But it's a twofold issue there.
Okay, kind of back on that energy analysis survey, how many people are availing them of that service, roughly, on a monthly basis?
We put the stats in the budget book on a yearly basis. I want to say, and this is what I'm recalling, it could be incorrect, but I think of between 300 to 500 customers a year, something like that, have the free energy surveys.
Pretty low percentage overall.
Percentage?
Pretty low percentage overall, 300 to
But
500
on a
out of
yearly
26,000.
basis, so over time,
And we do have that on our website. And trust me, when customers, especially during the summer call, that they're having, you know, once again, the high bills, whether it's water, and by the way, we don't just check electricity, we check water as well. So, but summertime is the time. And so definitely when we talk to them, we put them in connection with this team to go ahead and at least go out in their house and doing the analysis. I believe it's actually done for several council members as well. And the response I received was very, very positive, that there was a cost savings.
I was told we do about 40 a month.
40 a month?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Back to what we were talking about at the beginning with the number of personnel that we have, what's our primary obstacles in getting those people? Is it just availability? Are we not, or is it the pay scale? Is it the cost of living in South Florida, why we're not getting these folks here? What's causing us to have those issues?
It's multifaceted, right? As you know, we did a salary study. It's about a year old, if not a little bit older. And in terms of salaries, and the way the analysis was done, it was not only what you get paid hourly, but it was also the benefits you received, right? So in terms of salary plus benefits, which we have a very rich benefit program, we came out kind of on the top of the survey. So that there, I think we're okay. But once again, the other part of the problem is, you know, you have a young person who's getting started, and, you know, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the difference between us and FPNL right now is like starting salary is like $6 an hour or something like that. For a young person, maybe the benefits isn't a big thing, you know, a retirement, good insurance, you know, to them, they see the dollar. So that might be one of the issues. The other issue is once again, I hate saying this, it's a nationwide issue. All the trades are having a problem now. You know, you're having a problem with plumbers, electricians, AC people, linemen. The younger generation, you know, for whatever reason, don't think this is something for them. So there's that challenge. And also the economic conditions, especially in South Florida. Because I bet you, I wouldn't say Ocala, I say if you go out of state, resident-wise, housing is going to be much, much less than it is here, especially South Florida, which is one of the most expensive home ownership areas in the state of Florida. So you couple all these things together with, you know, the lack of people in the trades, the money, like I said, the money, we can go up, but if I'm not mistaken, FPNL pays $6 or $7 an hour starting, more than we do, and they're having trouble getting linemen. They're having the exact same issue we are. So that's part of the equation, but I don't think that's going to solve our problem. And that's why we started the apprentice program. These are young individuals They're coming in and you're getting paid, you're getting a salary right from the start while you're being trained, okay? And so part of the agreement, once they come on board for that, they promise that once they finish their apprenticeship, think about this, 4.5 years to finish your apprenticeship, plus you're guaranteeing the city you will be here 1 additional year on top of that. So basically, we have them for 5.5 years. Now, we don't do this only with the electric utility, we're actually doing it with the police department as well. You know, we're helping some, you know, we're having trouble getting new police officers. So we're putting officers through the academy, actually paying them to go to the academy. Their agreement, if I'm not mistaken, is for 2 years. Once they graduate, that they'll stay with the city.
You did answer a lot of my questions with the presentation. One I did want to touch on briefly again was, have we as a city really looked into and engaged the new technology that's out there to look at some of our old transformers with infrared cameras and things of that nature to look? Because, you know, you can do a lot of finding of problems with that type of equipment. I don't know if we have it or not. I haven't had that discussion with you yet, Barbara. But.
Yes, we do thermovision on our power lines. We also do thermovision with the cameras in our substations as well. And we look for hot spots, and we correct those hot spots. We just had it done about 3 months ago, Louis? 2 months ago? Yeah. Yeah, we just had it, we just had the infrared camera inspection of our lines done about 2 months ago. We also use drones to look at the super high voltage lines, the transmission lines. We use drones that also have infrared to look at the hot spots on the transmission lines. So.
Okay, thank you for that. And now I want to get back to the actual event that occurred on Saturday. So typically we get a notification when there's an outage. Council always gets a notification. We didn't get one. So how many customers were affected during that outage?
There were, our records were 66, correct, Sal? Yeah, 66 homes
66 homes.
were affected by that outage. We typically send out the outage notifications when it's a main circuit that's out, and a main circuit affects a much larger group of customers. So for the branch circuits, we do not typically send out the outage notification.
Okay, yeah, the typical notifications you get are when they're, you know, 2,000
Yeah.
plus customers. I understand that a little bit better now. What time did the outage start and when was it repaired?
It went out at 3:30 p.m. on Saturday, and we had folks that responded the following morning at 6 a.m. They came in, they rode the lines, they looked for problems, and they had the outage restored at 9 a.m.
Okay.
And we had, just, that was what occurred.
Okay.
And Councilman, you know, that's unacceptable, right? Obviously, we have to do much, much better. Like I said, you know, I blew the horn about last night. Over 6,000 residents out, and in less than an hour, we had them running. You know, 16 hours, we can't wait that long. And so, once again, I think a lot of these things, and it's not being initiated, once again, because of this weekend's event. These have been long in coming already. We think once these things get implemented, we shouldn't be having these types of incidents, not for this type of duration. Now, I know in the fall, Mayor, you mentioned another incident, a prior incident or something that took a while, but I believe that was an actual transformer.
I think that was a pole that was broken into from a single car accident.
Oh, okay. So, but once again, yeah, we have to do better. It's not, can we do better? We have to do better. And once again, the items we're implementing, we believe will make a big difference. And once again, we're out there interviewing I think we're interviewing a new individual now at this time.
Yes, we have a gentleman from New York that is interested in coming. The first thing we did was we told him this is the pay, because if that was going to be a deterrent, we don't want to bother interviewing him. and he is interested, and so we're going to have him perform a skills test for us. And
And we're going as far as like fly him in for the interview, we're paying for it. We're trying to take any hurdle that they can have in their way, out of the way, to at least get them down here and see, what a great place to work this is and what a great city the city of Homestead is, and get these guys online. But with that being said, we're always focusing on that, thank you so much, the apprentice program, to at least we have these folks on. Yes, and the backup with Irby as well.
And you only have to endure me for a couple more.
I know,
I'm glad-
absolutely, that's what we're here
I'm
for.
glad your presentation talked about us engaging with Irby Construction. Do we have a timeline on roughly that's going to take place?
My understanding is the next,
24th.
the 24th of this month.
And are there any issues with our local union members when we're hiring an outside contractor?
I
to
think
support
Barbara's
them?
already spoken to them.
They were
about it.
advised, per contract, we have to give them 60-day notice when we're using contractors to come in to supplement the workforce, and they were advised. Irby's actually been working with us on the storm hardening project. So the union was advised of Irby coming on property to supplement the workforce and getting that work done for replacing the wooden poles with the concrete poles.
Right, but in like an emergent situation, say something like this happened again, we were unable to get a hold of our own employees, you would call the Irby folks. At some point, there might be an issue with the union, with the folks that might have been on the call-out list who may have missed the call. I've seen this in my other life, where there were issues with that, and I just want to make sure that we don't have any type of, we don't have our employees standing on the corner, telling us all to go somewhere we don't want to go.
We had the discussion. We've got the union chair and vice chair here. There they are. And the former vice chair. And yes, we spoke also with the union president, with Ivan Soriano, and advised that we would be using these people as backup for our trouble calls in the event that once we ran through our list several times and were unable to get anyone, that the next step would be that we can go to the contractors. And that's the same process that FPL follows. They go through their people first. If they don't get sufficient response, then they go to the contractors. So it's the same process.
Okay. And, finally, I'll just say again, and you said it yourself, it's unacceptable that we allowed this to occur. Let's work so we can not let this happen again, because in my belief, it just puts us in a bad light across the board. I think it's important for us. Again, our job is to provide services to the residents of Homestead, and they pay for that, for those services, and it's very important that we're able to deliver on those services. So, again, appreciate the information that was provided tonight, and at this time, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of my questions were answered as well. I really do want to salute staff. Electricity is my biggest fear in the entire world. So thank you for doing everything that you do. I was really hoping, as I mentioned before this meeting, is just to see if there was something that we could do. It's kind of frustrating when we hear of the families that have lost all the food in their fridge, and I had already struggled to fill that fridge in the first place. So I appreciate you say us wanting to do better. I am happy that our statistics are as good as they are. But then again, you saying that we want to do better, that has to always be the bottom line. So I'm here to see if there's anything that we can do. I am so happy we have the relationship we do with Miami-Dade College, because these are the things we need to do to be proactive and not wait until there's a huge shortage. We just had a really long conversation. Children's neurology is non-existent. There are 2 people that are seeing children that are having issues, and it's incredibly scary that parents are having to wait until November or January of next year for their child to be assessed. They can't receive any therapy without having this neurological assessment first, and that's just a small example of the type of shortages that we're facing. So anytime we have that opportunity to talk to the college and others to make sure that those programs are in place and that we're doing everything that we can to share the things that we're seeing are an issue and that we need to do better with. You know, that was another one of my questions regarding Irby, that it doesn't affect our staff's hours. The only other thing I was thinking, until things work out with Irby, is there anything that we can do to offer our employees more while they're on call? Is there anything that we could set up that it would be a bigger benefit for them to come in?
You got it? Well, I mean, it's, obviously, we'd have to talk to the union, but right now, it's time and a half, if I'm not mistaken. So they get time and a half when
Okay.
they come in. So it's, oh, yeah, 3 hour minimum, correct? So if they're out there for 30 minutes, they get paid for 3 hours. So there is an incentive for them to come out. And some guys, you got to beat them away with a stick. They want to come out every time, but sometimes they can't.
And
Was it your question, though, to pay them to sit at home to be ready? Like
I mean, obviously, whatever we need to do, we should consider until we are fully staffed. I understand that comes with a lot of different things we need to look into, but I just thought whenever we come up with shortages in any of our staffing departments, is that something we could consider as like a little bit of an emergency overtime, since they're being asked to go even more above and beyond?
And I did want to mention, it was shown in the presentation, we do have a part-time former troubleman coming back to help us out. He's starting on Monday. So he will be helping us to fill the gap with that coverage. So that's one step that will be happening very soon. And also in the interim, we look at the weather. And if we're going to have bad weather, we're going to fill a shift on overtime. So if we have a vacant troubleman shift because we have a vacant position and we're looking at some bad weather, we're going to fill that shift on overtime.
Great. And then the last thing is, I've told you many times, I really appreciate those emails, because that's a great tool for us to be able, we'll see comments on Facebook, we can respond. So whenever you're able to do that, even if it's a smaller outage, if that's possible, it's a really big help. And maybe post something on our social media, if there's a way to do something, and encourage those energy saving tips on there as well. Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, what caused the outage on Saturday night? We haven't talked about that.
They rode the line out and didn't find the cause, and they closed the fuse back in. So we don't know. Yeah, there's probably 20% of the time where the cause is undetermined.
Remember, 737 miles of line, so.
Distilled down to what, 8 or 10 square blocks of folks who had a lot all right, Councilman?
Just one final question. I'm sorry about that. When we have power outages, specifically, this one was a smaller one, but do we notify the police department when those sections of the city are out of power? That might be something we need to do in the future. Last night, you saw videos of people driving through red lights. It was, some safety issues there, but I'm more concerned about the homes at that point in time.
Okay,
if they're without
that's
power.
an excellent question, Councilman. We'll follow up with the police department. I know the notification is sent out.
To the PD.
To the, oh, they are? Oh, okay, so they are sent out to the police department.
When there's an outage notification, I know that the chief is on there. I believe command staff is, but if they're not, we will make sure they are.
We'll double check, but excellent question.
Thank you.
And finally, I guess we've got the customer service component, and I guess I've had firsthand and have secondhand information that people either couldn't get through, couldn't get a good answer, and were actually told, sorry, we don't have anybody to send out. And that's concerning. That's wrong answer. May be true, but it's the wrong answer.
Mayor, I agree with you 100%. I mean, you can ask Vivian and Barbara, like, who, I need to know, who was saying that? Did somebody report to ENCO that, hey, because that's an inappropriate answer. Hey, one thing that we're trying to get crews out there, which is a legitimate answer, but to say, hey, somebody's on vacation, so we don't have any crews, which, number one, was not accurate. Okay, we had people available. So just because somebody was on vacation didn't mean people weren't available, but to be telling our customers, we can't service you because some guy's on vacation, that's very inappropriate. So we're trying to get to the bottom of that, right? Who was reporting that? How, was it ENCO reporting that? It was the dispatcher reporting that. So we're trying to get to the bottom of that, okay? But once again, very inappropriate, and then that should have been the response. In terms of wait times, and what we could do is run an analysis of that evening. The call center, they have the stats, and we could take a look and see if there was anything going on at that time that, maybe they were understaffed or which line they were calling. We'll definitely do an analysis and get back to council and give you a report as to what the numbers are saying.
Are those calls taped, or any of the customer service
Yes,
calls
when you
taped?
call the city of Homestead, and remember, people don't make the connection. We know ENCO, but the customers do not, right? It's a call service, a call center service that responds to any calls to the city of Homestead. And yes, those lines are recorded. So if a customer calls and one of these service people is inappropriate or, belligerent, we've had cases. We get a call from a resident, hey, I called here and this person answered, they were disrespectful. People have been terminated. And then there's the vice versa. You listen to the recording and it's like, everything was kind of okay. But we'll run the stats to get a better idea as to for the call waiting times. But yes, I'm on the hunt to see where that comment came from, because that should not be the response to our residents.
Right, that's not what you want to hear
Absolutely
at
not.
9:30 on Saturday night with no
I'd be incensed myself, to be honest with you.
Yeah, all right. I appreciate that and look forward to that resolution. So with that, if there are no comments from my colleagues, I see looks like we have a few members of the public here. Some of you may have actually suffered through the outage. Would anyone like to make a comment, ask a question? We'll open the mic for you and we'll limit you to 2 minutes tonight. Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment? Come on down, sir, and give us your name and address for the record. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is... Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Tania Rosario.
I'm Sigfredo Martinez. We live in unincorporated Dade County, but we have Homestead Power and Light.
By September last year, we were having issues with our power, and the Homestead company offered us to change the meter. Since September last year, we lost power 17 times, including last night. And 4 times we were having like flickering issues. So in total, we've been having 21 times problems with Homestead Power Light.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking on my behalf, I'm talking on my son's behalf. I have my son, he's 14 years old, he's in a coma, he's on a breathing machine. So I don't even care if my food is, get raw or whatever, it's not working on the, I'm so mad. 21 times. This is unacceptable. You know where is my son now? In my mom's house. She lives in 283 and 157. She has a FPL. She doesn't have any issues. And this is not the first time. 21 times. This is unacceptable. We call this guy that is called Salvador. I think he's here. And he always trying to help us.
He helps us.
But nothing is solved. So last night issue, I understand that you guys are having a lot of issues, but 21 times that we're having issues with our power. And now I have to have my son that is connected 24 hours to a breathing machine. I cannot connect that machine to a power supply. So I have to have 24/7 my generator ready. every time the power is out, we have to start running. What are we gonna
Yep.
do? What we
Get
gonna
gas,
do?
get everything ready.
Is everything ready? Do we have the gas? Do we have the oil? We are not in a hurricane season, because if we are in a hurricane season, then we are
understand.
ready.
We understand.
But out of hurricane season, that doesn't make
On
any
a
sense.
shiny, beautiful day.
It is scary that there are non-neurologists. Actually, I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm a family nurse practitioner with specialty in respiratory, thanks God, for my son. So I understand about the shortage, but this is unacceptable.
Yeah. Frustration has turned into fear. I'm fearful. I spoke to Salvador. He answered my phone call yesterday.
And we live in an
I almost started
unincorporated.
crying.
We live in an unincorporated.
Dade, my voting card, I don't even vote for you guys, you know? I wish I was hooked up to FPL. I've been here for 30 years. The last 4, we bought that house. If I would have known it was Homestead, we probably would have thought about it and moved somewhere else, to be honest. I've been in Homestead for 30 years. I have FPL for about 25 of those. Never had any issues. Yeah, the occasional power outage, of course, but not like this. It's not even a year, and we started keeping track because, I mean, we're going to go to the Public Service Commission with this. It's extremely frustrating. And right now, frustration, forget about frustration. Now I'm on fear, and so is my wife, as you can see. Please, help us.
Why my son needs to be in another house now?
Yeah. Right.
Because we're scared what will happen?
Yeah.
We can be like
They have
this.
FPNL, they don't have any issues. We always call them, we got no power. Like last night, an hour, from like 8-something to like 10 or almost
And
10.
I prepare his formula at 9 p.m. So at 9 p.m., I had to go to my mom's house, drive there to prepare his formula on the
back.
blender, and come back because we had no power on a sunny day or whatever, on a clear night.
Yeah.
Because these 21 times that we ever had any issues, there were sunny days.
It's
There
not
were
even.
rainy days. But hopefully you won't guys find yourself in a situation like us.
No, yeah.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. Thank you for your
Just
time.
just know that our obligation to you who are on our electrical grid for some lines that were drawn 60 years ago, arbitrary lines drawn, we take our obligation just as seriously to you as we do to those who live here in the city. It's our obligation to do that. And I know I've seen our staff talking about your particular situation. Do we have a list? And I thought years ago we had this where people who were on our electrical system could register special medical issues so that we could be aware of those hotspots of
With, I
important
know
medical
that
issues.
at one time with our customer service department, they were, but I think the county actually created like a master list, like if a storm is coming, that type of situation. I'll double check with customer service. You already registered. My apologies. This is the first I hear about this, but Barbara herself is gonna look into it. We're gonna run system checks on that particular line to find out, because it's very irregular that you get so many turnoffs like that. So it might be something more systemic with those particular lines. But I promise you myself that we're gonna get out there, we're gonna do an analysis and do whatever we can to go ahead and prevent this from happening in the future.
We hope so. You know, again, we don't get to vote. It's like I feel like I'm silent because I don't vote for you guys. I vote on the unincorporated Dade County. So it's also kind of frustrated because I feel like I have no voice. You know, I get to have a voice right now, but I hope that we can do something because I gotta tell you, I feel like lost. And I'm fearful for my son. So please.
You have my word,
Absolutely.
okay?
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Anyone else?
Brandy Ramirez, 2231 Southeast First Street. First, want to say thank you to Mayor Losner, Councilman Fletcher, Jennifer Bailey. Thank you for showing us, the residents, that we're important to you three. I see empty seats tonight. That's unacceptable. I also want to thank the city manager and full staff. I see the full staff of the electric company here, the union. Thank them, because those are the ones that are going to get us back on power when we need it. But I heard a lot of things that are not acceptable. One is, why are we barely hiring now? to staff the team that gets us all power. That's an issue there. I'm hearing also that it's difficult to find employees. We have 90-something thousand residents. I find that very hard to hear that we cannot get people on the team. Jennifer's idea was great, Miami-Dade Community College, trying to recruit. I also heard training courses. I'm hearing staff doesn't receive that. So it sounds like the staff's not getting the support that they need. How about the pay? There should be increases in the pay for the staff so that they can maybe be full staff. So there's a lot of challenges that I'm hearing more than what I hear solutions. Please look into, is it true what 8 people only working to cover the whole city? That sounds very, very low. I know that when it became low for the police department, we stood by the police department like we should, and we increased police there. So if they're short-staffed, we need to do something, but we need to do it now. We cannot be waiting. I'm happy to hear that there's going to be a part-time person coming on board Monday, but that's still not sufficient either. We keep hearing we're going to do better, but the residents are being affected and we don't see better. How about the communication, the respect that councilman and mayor deserve? I'm going to continue if you don't mind. That they should get more communication on alerts, because you guys are the ones that are keeping us updated. At least I can speak for you 3 right here. You are active with our community. You're keeping us informed, whether it's through social media. Us residents appreciate that. The only other thing I wanted to mention, it's too many power outages going on, and we're hearing that we don't know what's going on. So that also has to be improved there. I'll keep it short because I want to hear from other residents, but this is why our residents are getting frustrated. They're all over social media expressing themselves, and I hope that we can see some action taken by our city manager and the staff and by council and mayor. We're missing some people up here, and that's why I'm running, because we need change here to happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, Dr. James McDonough. I live at 32320 Southwest 199th Avenue. As Brandy just said, I really want to thank and acknowledge you, Honorable Mayor Losner, Councilwoman Jennifer Bailey, and Councilmember Sean Fletcher. The fact that you 3 came here tonight and set this meeting, particularly you, Mr. Losner, for setting this meeting up, shows that you guys care about the residents and you guys care about the city. I am more than appalled to the level I almost do not have words to see that 4 members who sat here and pushed through and gave a contract to a manager without doing a nationwide search and disinterest to their constituents could not be bothered to show up here. Some of the things said, it sounds good. I'm afraid maybe it's pillow talk. Maybe it's a little too late. I don't know all the details, but it's very reminiscent of us not having trash picked up. It's very reminiscent of police officers telling residents to shut up and failing to identify. It's very reminiscent of police officers chasing children in the canal and killing them and falsifying reports and nothing being done about it. It's very similar to immigrants getting beating and police reports falsified and nothing being done about it. What are you going to do, sir? Are you going to stand up and do your job? Please.
Any further public comment? Council? Oh, okay, we got someone online? And that is? Mr. Orta? Hi, good evening.
Hello, my name is Yadira. I'm not going to give my last name, and I live 1126 East Murray Drive. I've been living here 23 years. You know, I'm a lot younger than the people that are here, but I am a resident, and I've been a resident all my life, born and raised here. And this problem has been occurring for a long time, and I've seen it, and I'm glad that you, sir, you talked about if PD was being called when power outages happen, because I've seen so many like potential crashes or accidents on these roads because there's just no officers directing traffic. Even though I've seen them going through these stop signs and all these stuff, and it's ridiculous. And honestly, it feels like a lot of empty promises. So hopefully things do change. But from what I was seeing, it was a lot of placing the blame on FPL. Well, FPL also has this issue. This compares to FPL. We don't pay FPL. We are paying you guys. So I just really want to see this change, and I'm sure the rest of us do as well.
Thank you. Did we have someone online? All right, let's go ahead. Online.
Hello, Mayor Lazar. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. First of all, it's Romero Horta, 2040 Southeast 19th Street, Homestead, Florida. First of all, I want to acknowledge the council members that actually showed up to hear the concerns of certain residents issues where it's been neglected for far too long. And now, look at us now. We have a snowball effect with certain council members who were somewhat responsible for this, not even show up to embrace this feedback that they so desperately need to hear. Now, you guys did hear that family with the child who's at home on incubators and what have you. I was the one that encouraged this family to come and speak to you because after knowing that they get homestead power, but yet they don't have the option of speaking or expressing their frustration because they're considered non-incorporated Dade County, I found that a little suspect as to why that's going on. And ironically, that section is one section that is constantly having these power outages. Why is that? Maybe because those people don't vote and it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, they should get the same service that the current residents of Homestead should be getting. Okay? At the end of the day, there's consequences to these actions that were taken because ironically, the four who were pushing over development, which I think that's the cause of these outages because to taste this as undetermined, that should concern all of us. So we need some better research and some better investigation as to what really happened because it's a bit concerning that the outage was undetermined because could you imagine in the future, in the summer, when it gets hotter, we're going to have more and more outages. So we need to get to the bottom of this as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Horta. Anyone else online? All right. Anyone else in the audience? Last call. Councilman Fletcher? Councilwoman Bailey?
Just a couple ending thoughts. Again, with any educational opportunity that we have to include when there's an outage, when we are able to do that on social media, to not only add our energy resources, but also just to do a few, which we would consider common sense, using lights out as four-way stops, because in the end, not everybody knows. So if that's an opportunity for us to shed some light on what we're supposed to do when the lights are out. And just something else, I would say this for anybody of us up here, I almost couldn't make it tonight, and it's not because I don't care. I've been closing at the school every night, and I was rushing to get here. Sometimes we can't, but I would like to say that you can reach out to us, any of us, anytime, and we really do care. Whether you're in unincorporated or Homestead, it means absolutely nothing to me. I'm sure that we'll hear soon from them to see what a solution can be because it is unacceptable. So I just wanted to end saying that, and thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And again, I just want to thank the manager and the staff for their presentation and letting us know that things are in the works to resolve this. It was an unfortunate event. And I don't say that lightly or demeaningly. 17 hours in the summer heat is quite an ordeal. I get that. And we're not unmindful of it. And you're right. While our statistics are better by comparison, we're always striving to do better. Because when you're in your home sweating at 2 o'clock in the morning, you don't care what those statistics are. You don't want to be the statistic. And again, to our people in the bucket trucks and on the ground, they go out while the rest of us are snug at home. When you go out in the lightning and the rain and the wind and the cold and the heat at all hours of the night, we want to appreciate that and acknowledge that tonight. And as I said at the beginning, this was not intended to demonize or cast aspersions or blame on anyone. It was to come together to see where we are and how we're going to do better in the future. And I think we've accomplished that. And I know that we'll now get some updates on where we are with that. And just real quick, thinking out loud, you know, there are a lot of kids in our local high schools that have no prospects to go to college. And to come out of high school at 18 with an apprentice job, with a salary when you're already living here, probably still living at home or with a group of folks, that's our future, folks. And that's just what I think where we're going to go. So I appreciate that. So if there's nothing further then, again, thank you all. Thanks for coming. Good night. This workshop is adjourned.